Hello once again everybody, another month is here and you know what that means. The rent is due. But if you have any fun money left over after paying that, maybe you can spend it on one of the dozens of new video games releasing in the next 30 days and change. So here, without further ado, are May 2025's biggest game releases. On the first, Despelote is out for everything, and while this could conceivably be classified as a soccer game, it's more of a slice of life game about how much people were into soccer in Ecuador in 2001. If you don't really dig soccer and prefer digging holes in the ground,
I'm tired of this, Grandpa!
That's too damn bad!
well, you're also in luck because Dig VR comes to PC VR and PlayStation 2. In this light simulation, you do lots of truck stuff, including but not limited to digging holes in the ground, retrieving stuff out of bodies of water, and accidentally wrecking somebody's patio furniture. That's also on MetaQuest 2 and up already. On the second, the co-op action roguelike Vellum leaves early access on PC, which features more ink magic than you can shake a feathered quill at. On the fifth, Duchy drops on PC, and while the name sorta sounds like disgusting bathroom slang, it actually refers to the clever way this roguelite combines Tetris with strategy mechanics, with each dropping block effectively becoming new land in your kingdom. Or I guess duchy, rather. A duchy is like a kingdom, but it's run by a duke. I think you're a duke. Or at least drop a dookies. Heyo! On May 6th, Captain Blood comes to everything, a swashbuckling pirate action game, and the name might be right at home with plenty of other aggro, try-hard, violent-sounding video games that scandalize parents. It's actually based on a novel from 1922, so who knows, maybe it scandalized your great-great-grandparents when they caught your great-grandpa poring over it under the covers by candlelight, or whatever it was that people used to read violent books under the covers in the 1920s.
A secret now that only fire can tell.
On the 8th, Bahamut and the Waqwaq Tree comes to PC, which is a 2D adventure game rooted in Arabian folklore, which may have the most fun-to-say title of any game coming out this month. Say it along with me. Bahamut and the Waqwaq Tree. Wasn't that fun? Thank you for playing along. You know that part in Office Space where a bunch of software developers entertain the thought of money laundering, but then realize they don't actually know what money laundering involves? Well, if you made a video game based on not knowing how to launder money, it might look a bit like Cash Cleaner Simulator, a physics-based game in which you must take dirty money from criminals and then give it back to them spotless. Considering how much everyone's enjoying the cozier side of drug dealing in Schedule 1, maybe a squeaky clean approach to money laundering is the next crime wave to sweep the Steam charts. Oh, and that's also coming to PS5 and Xbox Series later this year. Empyreal is an action RPG that'll send you delving into deep space monoliths to figure out what's inside, I suppose, and probably kick its ass while you're in there. That's coming to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series. Pixelshire is a quaint-looking RPG that blends life sim elements, town building, and combat, so if you're pissed off at Stardew Valley for some inexplicable reason, maybe you can go play this out of spite, or because you want to have a nice cozy time. Whichever. That's also coming to PS5 and Switch sometime later on. Still on the 8th, there's Revenge of the Savage Planet, the follow-up to the 2020 comedic sci-fi exploration adventure which had you stranded on a distant planet due to a mix of corporate greed and stupidity. Fittingly enough, the studio behind the first game, Typhoon Studios, was acquired by Google and merged into Stadia Games and Entertainment before a mix of corporate greed and stupidity resulted in that entire department being shut down a year later, stranding the entire development team. Well, after regrouping and forming a new studio, here is a fun-looking sequel, and the revenge in the title makes a whole lot more sense with that context. Anyway, the new game features online and couch co-op, so you and a pal can terrorize goofy-looking aliens together. That's coming to both PlayStations, the Xbox Series, and PC. Finally, on May 8th, there's The Midnight Walk, which is a very cool, albeit nightmarish-looking adventure from the developers of Lost in Random, and I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around what the actual gameplay loop is, but it's given little nightmares, and it's claymation as hell, and it can be played in VR or in 2D. That's coming to PC, PC VR, PS5, and PSVR 2. On May 12th, the open-world survival game Project Myst comes to early access on PC, which looks a little bit like Myst with guns, or maybe Far Cry with puzzles and depression, but either way, it's got flying whales and big scary hands, so that's fine with me. Just when you think you've ripped and torn until it was done, they pull you back in and they say, "You call this done? There's clearly lots more ripping and tearing left to do." And that is exactly what is happening on May 15th in Doom: The Dark Ages, a game that is really hard to talk about without just yelling swear words at the top of my lungs, so I'm gonna do my best. This time around, Doom Guy's got a cape! And he's got a shield with saw blades on it, and he's got a gun that grinds up skulls and shoots them at people like buckshot, and a dragon with laser wings that he can ride around on, and you know what? I don't even know what else it has because I saw all of that and I was like, yeah, Doom is awesome. Keep up the great work, everybody. Keep making Doom games. I'm glad they exist. Anyway, that's on New Gen and PC. Anyway, do you like roguelites? Do you like deck building? Do you like designing dungeons? Well, if you answered yes to any of these things, you may be eligible for hours of enjoyment thanks to Into the Restless Ruins. And all snark about the abundance of roguelite deck builders aside, this one does have an interesting hook in that the deck that you're building is the floor plan of the dungeon you're exploring. So I could see this one clicking very well with the Blueprints crowd. That's coming to PS5, Xbox Series, Switch, and PC. This month's Absolutely F***ing Not award goes to Tunnels, a VR game that has you crawling around in, that's right, tunnels. But guess what else is in the tunnels? A bunch of scary stuff. And I will absolutely f***ing not be playing this game because of the reasons that I just listed. I've always said that everything looks way scarier in a flashlight beam, and this couples that basic premise with intense claustrophobia. So if that's your thing, have fun with that. It's on MetaQuest 2 and up. No thank you. Absolutely f***ing not.
Secret tunnel.
On May 16th, Capcom Fighting Collection 2 comes to PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC, which features the following 2D and 3D brawlers: Capcom vs. SNK Millennium Fight 2000 Pro, Capcom vs. SNK Mark of the Millennium 2001, Capcom Fighting Evolution, Street Fighter Alpha 3 Upper, Power Stone 1 and 2, Project Justice, and Plasma Sword Nightmare of Bilstein. If you'd rather fight streets in a much more literal sense, Roadcraft is the latest heavy-duty truck simulation sandbox from the folks who gave us Mud Runner and Snow Runner, and instead of just driving to and fro over rough terrain, this one will have you cleaning up and doing construction in the wake of natural disasters. I had a blast with Mud Runner's expeditions, so I'm curious about this one. I'm a big fan of those trucks. That's on PS5, Xbox Series, and PC, May 20th. Fantasy Life I, The Girl Who Steals Time, is a fantastic sounding time sink described as a slow life RPG that'll see you bouncing between 14 different jobs and also time traveling a bit. That's on both PlayStations, Xbox Series, PC, and Switch, May 21st. JDM, Japanese Drift Master, is that slick-looking Initial D-inspired racing game that was supposed to be out in March, but now it is skidding onto PC May 21st instead. Still on the 21st, Monster Train 2, the follow-up to the hit 2020 deck builder, pulls into the station to deal you a whole new hand. That's on PC, Switch, Xbox Series, and PS5. On May 22nd, Blades of Fire hits PS5, Xbox Series, and Epic Games Store on PC. That's a pretty gnarly looking action RPG with an emphasis on weapon crafting, and it's from Mercury Steam, the Spanish studio that had a hand in the Castlevania Lords of Shadow games, as well as the most recent 2D Metroid games, that Metroid 2 remake, Samus Returns, and the dreaded Metroid Dread. If you want to get medieval, but in a more literal architectural sense, City Tales Medieval Era is exactly what it sounds like, a city builder set in the olden days, and that's hitting early access on the 22nd as well. Bloodshed may sound like a very scary place to keep your lawnmower and yard waste bags, but it is in fact a first-person roguelite survivors-like, as in Vampire Survivors. So the combat is handled automatically, I think, or rather just spammed non-stop, and all you need to worry about is moving around, which is easier said than done. If you are a wizened elder millennial like myself, this may be reminiscent of a handful of underrated 90s shooters, specifically Blood, Shadow Warrior, and Heretic. That's leaving early access on the 22nd, and I'm intrigued. Still that day, Mobile Suit Gundam Seed Battle Destiny Remastered is an overhaul of the 2012 Vita game based on the 2002 anime that is getting its first English localization. Despite dropping when my Gundam fandom was at an absolute fever pitch, I never really got into Seed beyond building one single kit of the Buster Gundam, but if you're all about the Strike and the Aegis Gundam, you can finally fulfill your Battle Destiny on Switch and PC. Still that day on PC is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tactical Takedown, which puts a turn-based strategic spin on stomping the foot, which sounds pretty cool, and honestly, they haven't all been winners, but I think it's safe to say that the steady trickle of TMNT games we've been getting over the past couple years is probably the most consistent it's been since the late 80s and early 90s, and I say cowabunga to that, my friends. Last but not least, on May 22nd is Zombie Army VR, which puts a more immersive, headset-centric spin on Rebellion's Grindhouse spin-off of the Sniper Elite games, and you can eviscerate hordes of undead fascists up close and personal on PC, PSVR 2, and MetaQuest 2 and newer. If you feel the recent resurgence of feudal Japanese games like Rise of the Ronin, Assassin's Creed Shadows, and the upcoming Ghost of Yotei are too historically accurate, maybe it's time for a trip down memory lane with Onimmusha 2 Samurai's Destiny. This gives Capcom's classic 2002 feudal Japanese action-adventure a nice glow-up along with some tweaks to controls and quality-of-life improvements, and it features things that did exist like Oda Nobunaga and samurai, and also things that probably did not exist like magical abilities and monsters. That's on PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC, which means you can pretty much play it anywhere. On May 29th, Fuga, Melodies of Steel 3 hits PC. The official Steam description reads, quote, "The dramatic RPG Fuga Melodies of Steel series is now complete," which really doesn't seem like it would turn many heads, but maybe they're trying to overcorrect for the graphic description of the first game, which reads, "Fuga, Melodies of Steel is an RPG where you place children, each with their own unique characteristics and skills, at different gun turrets in a tank to fight against the enemy," which is flat out deranged even if they aren't cartoon animal children, so it definitely sounds like a dramatic RPG, I'll give them that. That same day, Bitcraft Online hits early access, which strives to be a true single-world MMORPG where thousands of players exist in the same virtual space and have to scrounge resources and build cities together, which definitely sounds ambitious, and if nothing else, it's gonna sound really nice thanks to a score by Austin Wintory of Journey fame and prolific YouTuber and composer Rachel Hardy. On the 30th, there's My Father Lied, a first-person point-and-click narrative puzzle adventure whatchamacallit, in which a young woman must solve the mystery of her father's 20-year disappearance. I don't think he told the truth about that, if you ask me. That's on PC.
It wouldn't be inaccurate to assume that I couldn't exactly not say that is or isn't almost partially incorrect.
Some of the biggest games of the month are being saved for the very end of the month. Also on the 30th is Elden Ring Nightreign, which takes the tried and true FromSoft action RPG formula and gives it a roguelite spin, with more streamlined progression and a shrinking map of evil poison fog that you gotta contend with while scrambling around looking for resources. I know the 3-player co-op rubbed some folks the wrong way when it underwent a public network test, but from what I've gathered, it can also be played entirely solo, which probably makes it feel more akin to an open world Dead Cells than a medieval Fortnite trios or whatever. Anyway, that's coming to everything that Elden Ring is presently on. And last but not least, if you'd rather whip some monster ass with large ornate weaponry in a whole new universe, there's Lost Soul Aside on PS5 and PC that day as well, which looks to sit well with the Devil May Cry crowd, though I regret to inform any fans of the recent Devil May Cry Netflix anime that it seems to be woefully lacking in Limp Bizkit. Then again, maybe the PC modding crowd will save the day and reskin the main dude to look like Wes Borland or something. Hey, could be Durst. On that note, it's time for me to go do whatever it is I do when I'm not making these videos. If you'd like to stay up to date with all of the games that have ever come out and ever will come out, go download the IGN Playlist app. It is a massive database that lets you track your collection, backlog, wish list, or just make arbitrary lists of your own design. As always, huge thanks to Amanda Medina, Chris Del Padre, Logan Plant, and Taya Oyakan for helping make this video happen. If you are not sick of hearing me talk and would like to hear me wax intellectual about FromSoft games, check out the feature I did about the Duskbloods, that game that is not Bloodborne 2. If you'd rather hear me talk about My Neighbor Totoro and Kiki's Delivery Service and stuff like that, I also hosted the top 10 Studio Ghibli movies of all time, so go give those videos a watch. We worked very hard on them. It doesn't always seem like it, but we do try our best over here. I may see you next time, or I may not, but either way, have a great May, or whatever month it is where you are. See you later.